But first, yesterday in Parliament and again today, the Prime Minister insisted that the Uluru Statement from the Heart is an uplifting one-page document, inviting all Australians to go on a journey of reconciliation together. Yesterday, he even labelled statements that it's actually 26 pages as a conspiracy theory, he said, worthy of QAnon.
It is something that has been out there, like a whole lot of the QAnon theories. We have all sorts of conspiracy stuff out there, but this is a ripper. That is the Uluru Statement from the Heart.
And today the government was shopping around to The Guardian a letter from the National Indigenous Australians Agency to Senator Jacinta Price. Now, you'll recall here last night that she had oral confirmation from the agency that the Prime Minister was wrong. The Uluru Statement wasn't a one-page document, that it was instead a much lengthier document, and that she was still waiting for that oral advice in writing.
So my office today sought clarification from the FOI team at NIAA to determine whether the Uluru Statement from the Heart is simply one page or the full 26 pages. And so my staff got a phone call at 12:54 this afternoon with a verbal clarification that the document is in fact the 26 pages and not just, of course, the one page.
Well, that written advice arrived in the form of a letter to Senator Price early this morning, and almost straight away into her office too came a call from The Guardian. Now, you can join the dots and work out how they got it. In it, the letter claims that the Uluru Statement from the Heart is one page, signed by the delegates at the National Convention in 2017. The authors of the statement, it says, have confirmed this. The additional pages are background and excerpts from regional dialogues. Only there's one problem with this letter. It's not what one of the Uluru Statement's main authors has said repeatedly. It doesn't stack up. This is only a recant in the last few hours. And it's totally at odds with what the Indigenous Agency has maintained from its own FOI legal team repeatedly, again and again and again, until this morning. Indeed, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that government has bullied the agency into changing its position, or let's say clarifying to be a bit more charitable, in order to rescue the PM's floundering referendum campaign. The full Uluru Statement, Voice, Treaty, Truth, well, that matters because while people might support the voice at first blush, when they understand it means treaty and truth, well, that's when voter support drops off. And in recent weeks, you know, it's dropped off a cliff to the point that now more than 50% of Australians say they're going to vote no because they reject the push in the full Uluru Statement for multi-billion-dollar reparations on top of the near $40 billion a year currently spent on Aboriginal people. And they reject too the rewriting of our history as a story of shame. Let's be clear, the Uluru Statement from the Heart is not the one-page sanitised summary that the Prime Minister says it is. It's everything that the Indigenous activists think they need to make amends for 240 years of injustice flowing from what they regard as the illegal invasion of Australia. Here's Professor Megan Davis, one of the Uluru Statement's authors, denying the Prime Minister's claim that it's just one page in her 2018 Parkes oration.
A very powerful part of the Uluru Statement from the Heart is that it isn't just the first, one-page statement. It's actually a very lengthy document of about 18 to 20 pages.
Last year, Professor Davies wrote in the Australian newspaper that, and I quote, "The Uluru Statement is occasionally mistaken," she said, occasionally mistaken, as merely a one-page document. In totality, it's closer to 18 pages and includes a lengthy narrative called Our Story. She said this too during a webinar for the Australian Institute in August last year.
And it's actually 18 pages, the Uluru Statement. People only read the first.
She said this too at the recent Sydney Peace Prize Award ceremony.
It's very important for Australians to read the statement. And the statement is also much bigger. It's actually 18 pages.
So let's examine why voters understanding the full statement from the heart and what it might mean if the voice gets up is such a concern for the Albanese government. Now, after page 1, the Uluru Statement, as quoted in the Referendum Council's official report and as published under Freedom of Information by the National Indigenous Australians Agency, includes these statements. Quote, "The invasion that started at Botany Bay is the origin of the fundamental grievance between the old and new Australians." It goes on and says, "This is the time of the frontier wars, when massacres, disease and poison decimated first Australians. The Tasmanian genocide and the Black War waged by the colonials reveals the truth about this evil time. The taking of our land," it says, "without consent represents our fundamental grievance against the Crown." Now, this is all from the full Uluru Statement that the PM has said no fewer than 34 times that he supports in full, that Labor will implement in full. But there's more. The full Uluru Statement declares, and I quote, "Makarrata," it says, is another word for treaty. It is the culmination of our agenda. Now, this is the treaty that the PM insists has nothing to do with the voice. Yet as the full Uluru Statement declares, and I quote, "Any voice to the Parliament should be designed so that it could support and promote a treaty-making process." Quote again, it says, "Treaty would be the vehicle to achieve self-determination, autonomy and self-government." It goes on and says, "The true history of colonisation must be told. The genocides, the massacres, the wars and the ongoing injustices and discrimination." Now, all of this is in the 26-page document released under FOI by the Indigenous Agency. They note it as document 14 and it's titled Uluru Statement from the Heart. And it's confirmed as the Uluru Statement by a series of emails that I will publish on the Sky News website tonight and refer to tomorrow in my Australian newspaper column. So, Prime Minister, you are wrong. While Megan Davies may have told you today that she's changed her tune to try and help save your referendum, we can all see through it because she can't backtrack on years and years and years of public and published comments about the length and breadth of the full Uluru Statement. Now, it is undeniable that the statement from the heart is more than one page, and if voice gets up, it won't stop there. There's treaty and truth coming as well, we know. This deception in a long line of cunning and deceptive moves from Labor on the voice is yet another good reason to vote a resounding no.